League of Leaders, Hot Topic Tuesday. Al Fragnoli and Zach Sutty want to discuss some hot topics tonight, and we want to begin with the NBA. Al, the new CBA just came out. Training camp to start December 1st. Games are beginning December 22nd with a 72-game season. Thoughts on the start of the season coming in a little over a month in comparison to the push some players were making for a mid-late January start?
Yeah, great question, Zach. I'm excited for the NBA season to get underway pretty soon here. I mean, we're about probably 6 weeks away from the start. Training camp, as you mentioned, starts December 1, so that's exciting. We got the draft coming up. Um, Free agency will open up too. So a lot of exciting things on the horizon for the NBA. Obviously, they want to get the season started as quickly as possible as far as, the commissioner and owners and general managers and all those people want to get it rolling right away so they can get as much revenue coming in as possible. I think I read something the other week that said if they did push it back a month to what the players were hoping for in a mid-January start, that they would lose anywhere from $500 to $600 million in revenue. So they're definitely pushing to get it started. I'm on board as long as we're doing it safe and the right way. 72 game season, I think, is fantastic. It's almost a full 82 game season. Still a lot of unknowns though, Zach. Right? I mean, I don't know if they're going to have these games start in every home arena and have travel constantly going on every night or every other night for these teams. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of bubble going on, maybe at a local, regional level, something of that nature. But still a lot of unknowns, but I'm sure they'll get it ironed out and figured out as we move into December here. So, Zach, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited as well. I think Adam Silver nails it every time. I think he makes great decisions. I don't think the NBA is gonna to force something that's not there. So if it's going back to the bubble in Orlando or regional bubbles or putting in the proper protocols for the teams to travel, I think they are going to nail it. I think NBA is one of the best run leagues in professional sports. And I think that it's exciting that the season's going to start in December. I think it's awesome. It's going to be 72 games. And I hope we're on the tail end of this situation that we can start getting back to packing stadiums. May not be till spring, but looking forward to what the NBA does and seeing what they can do with the 72 game season and how they do it.
Yeah, Zach, I think you nailed it. Honestly, we've talked in the past about the commissioners and the various four professional sports teams. I would agree with you. Adam Silver is probably the number one, if not number one, number two. He's right up there towards the top of all four professional sports in regards to commissioners. Definitely a very forward-thinking individual, very smart man. So I think he's going to get things done the right way, and I think we're going to be excited for the basketball season to get started. But let's transition from basketball into baseball. Let's talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. Last week on Hot Topic Tuesday, we talked about the new hires with the Chicago White Sox and the Detroit Tigers. So let's talk again about the Chicago White Sox for a minute. Tony LaRussa is their new manager. This just comes out the other night, Zach, that he gets a DUI back in February in Arizona. This is the second DUI that he's received in his lifetime. I believe the other one occurred 10 years ago. So does this change anything for the White Sox? Are they going to part ways before he even manages one game? Should they part ways? What does this speak about his character, if anything?
So I think I have a couple issues with this situation. The White Sox are claiming they knew of this situation. If that is true and they move forward with a hire, I think they made that decision. They have to live with it. But as reports come out um, to see that Tony LaRusso may have allegedly said, do you know who I am? The whole spiel. I'm a Hall of Famer. Those types of things. I think that I question integrity there. Um, I question as a leader the integrity of the human being in that situation. We all make mistakes. We all need to own up to them and make sure that they don't happen again. And if they do, we handle them in a professional manner. And I think that in this situation, if I were the White Sox and I knew of this situation and I knew that he tried to use who he is as an opportunity to get out of a situation, that I would question his integrity and I would not make the decision to hire him. But if the White Sox knew this and they made this decision, they have to continue with this decision and carry it out. That he is their coach and they stand by him. And who knows what's being reported is true, false. But I hope that he did not state who he was and that he's a Hall of Famer to gain some sort of advantage in the situation. Uh, as for the White Sox, again, I think they made the decision. They're going to stick with LaRussa. I would handle the situation differently if I was in charge of the organization, but I am not. So that's where I stand on this. On this, how about you, Al? What are your personal thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is disappointing to hear, in my opinion, Zach. I mean, you mentioned, um, accountability essentially, right? I mean, if he's already done this before, so there's no such thing as a perfect human that's out there. We're all going to make mistakes. The important thing is that we learn from them, right? So, the way I look at it is, again, it happened in the past. He clearly did not learn from this, and as you mentioned too, hopefully the alleged story of him saying, "Do you know who I am? I'm a Hall of Famer." Hopefully, that's not true. If I had to take a guess, I would say he probably did say it, but which is disheartening. It's super disappointing, honestly, and it just goes to show that maybe he isn't the character individual that we thought he was. Obviously, a fantastic manager, a great baseball mind. But if he's continuing to make the same mistake over and over in regards to DUIs. I mean, this is a serious offense here. So there's got to be some sort of accountability. And I think that the White Sox need to move on from this. And as you mentioned too, it sounds like they knew that this happened. So I don't know. It's just a disappointing story all around, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So on to something a little bit more exciting. I know you're pumped up. You love college football. Al
Love it.
Fragnoli loves college football.
Love college
Um,
football. Live for Saturdays in the fall.
so Notre Dame with a win over Clemson. Clemson drops to number 4, and Notre Dame moves up to number 2. Should the teams run the table the rest of the way, meet in the ACC championship game, and then Clemson winning, who gets into the playoffs? Would it be both teams? And what should or would the college football playoff look like if they were to play out? And finally, Al, this makes me rethink this all over again. Should the NCAA have expanded the playoff this year with a shortened season?
Yeah. So, all right. A lot of questions in there, Zach. So, yeah, a lot to talk about with this. So, first thing is this past weekend, what a game Notre Dame and Clemson battled out overtime. Fantastic to see. Clemson played their hearts out, and they're obviously without their starting quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. He's coming back next weekend. I think they have a bye this week, but so next weekend he'll be back. But they're pretty banged up, so they competed really, really hard. Their depth shows volumes with what Dabo Sweeney's done over there. They got a deep club. And they battled hard with a lot of injuries and being without their starting quarterback. But with that being said, all due respect to Notre Dame because they played their hearts out as well, and they got a great team over there that Brian Kelly has put together. If both teams run the table, if Notre Dame finishes the regular season undefeated and Clemson finishes with one loss, and they happen to meet in the ACC championship game in December, and Clemson beats Notre Dame, they each will end with one loss, each beating each other once, losing to each other once. I think both teams should make the postseason. I think they're that good. and their schedule speaks for itself, and the way they've competed throughout the year. So I put both Notre Dame and Clemson in. My top four teams right now are Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Clemson. Um, I got a couple outside teams: Texas A&M, BYU, Cincinnati, and Florida are my next top four, 5 through 8 there. Uh, do I think that the NCAA should have expanded the playoffs? I think it was fantastic to see what Major League Baseball did for the postseason this year with a shortened season. I do think that college football probably should have went that route this year. It would have been really exciting for everybody to see. And then you have the BYU's and the Cincinnati's of the world, where you look at their schedule right now, they'll probably run the table and go undefeated. But nobody knows for sure if they should be in that top four echelon. So I think this would have been a perfect year for them. They definitely, I think, are worthy. Both schools are worthy of being in the top 8 if they expanded the postseason. But unfortunately, with the shortened season, I think that those two schools, BYU and Cincinnati, are probably going to be left out of the top 4 with the looks, with the way things are looking right now. So I don't know, but what are your thoughts, Zach?
I agree with you. I think that the Notre Dame win was huge over Clemson, and I think 100% they should expand the playoffs. They should have taken an opportunity to capitalize on that, and I would have loved to see 8 teams involved in the playoffs, and whether or not they were your 8 teams, I really do believe that it would make it much more exciting. And it seems that there is some sort of success in college football right now in keeping cases down. Although you did lose a star player like Trevor Lawrence, um, I think you have to say that the season has been successful, with all of the challenges of college athletes going to class and participating in things outside of the classroom. I think it has been much more successful than I would have thought. And I think when we had a discussion weeks ago, even months ago, that I didn't think that the season would even come to a conclusion. So, um, you know, yeah, I think that an expanded playoff would have been fantastic for college football, especially now when everyone's starving for competition and sports.
Yeah, that's great. I think it would have been fantastic to see too, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And Zach, even if there was an expanded postseason, one school that would not be there is the Penn State Nittany Lions here. They started the season as number 8 in the country, I believe, was their original ranking. They've got 3 straight losses to open up the season. They're 3-0 with losses to Indiana, Ohio State, Maryland. Is James Franklin on the hot seat if the season continues to spiral out of control?
That's a tough call. That's a tough call. One thing that I just dislike about COVID is it creates excuses. You can always say that because of COVID, we didn't get to prepare, plan this, that, and the other. So it gives leaders an opportunity to place blame elsewhere. Um, but in this case, I think James Franklin has to be on the outs, on the hot seat. I think he has to be on the outs. Um, he hasn't won big games. He hasn't won, or I think he's done a great job in bringing them back from where they were, because they were in a horrible position. So maybe he gets a little bit of a leash this season because of that. But I think that um, maybe not this season, but next season, if this continues, um, he's on the outs and he's done. But I do think there's going to be a little bit of forgiveness this season. Uh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I agree with you that there's a lot of leeway that happens with some of these programs and jobs in general, I guess, across the board with COVID. But to your point, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because he's having the same challenges that every other program is. But you know what? Ohio State's 3-0, and there's a lot of other programs that are doing well. So I agree with you. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but he probably does have a little bit of leeway with that. I think he's a great recruiter. I think he's brought in a lot of talent. You've mentioned that he's brought the program back from where they were with the Joe Paterno scandal and everything that went on there. Penn State went downhill really quick, and he's brought them back, and they've really thrived in the last couple of years. I think he's a good recruiter, as I mentioned. One thing I don't think he's that great at, though, is in-game adjustments. When you watch them from game to game, I don't think he makes a lot of good in-game adjustments from what's going on as a coach. I don't think he's going to be on the hot seat this year unless maybe they somehow go 0-9 or something, which I doubt happens. But to your point, next year, if his struggles continue and he's 500, or below 500, he's probably gone, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. So
he's got to win.
He 100% has to win at an institution like Penn State. So, and he's done a good job since he's been there, but definitely some challenges of late. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But anyway, that wraps it up for Hot Topic Tuesday. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing everybody soon.